Tyrone Bumpin' T Armstrong, rap producer, former rap producer.
Where were you born and raised?
Sacramento, California, in a small neighborhood called Del Paso Heights, affectionately known as DPH, or Deep Part of Hell.
Deep part of hell, man.
Deep Part of Hell.
What high school did you go to?
I went to two high schools. I went to Grant High School. I went through there my freshman to junior year, and then I spent my senior year at Highlands High School, and that's where I graduated from.
From Highlands, okay.
Yeah.
So most of your time at Grant, though?
Yeah. I grew up all the ways in the Del Paso Heights. Yeah. I used to get into too many fights, so I felt it was time for me to go ahead and transfer and move on, and I played sports, and so it worked out. I was able to get recruited in football by UC Davis, so yeah, it all worked out. I was just too many fights.
Got you. For sure, man. All right. What years were those exactly?
My high school years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I graduated in 1986, so from 1982 through 1986.
Okay.
Yes.
86 you graduated. Wow.
Yeah.
That was when I was born.
Wow. Then I got a son your age. Yeah, so you're about 36, 37.
Yeah.
You look good, man. You look good.
Brother, you too, man.
Hey, for all the ladies out there, you guys want a tall, good-looking white boy? Well, I'm assuming you white.
Yeah. Shit, alright. So what was it like growing up in DPH in the 80s, man?
Meaning inside the home or outside of the home?
Outside the home, in the streets. What were you seeing? What was going on?
Okay. For me, it was pretty insulated because I played a lot of ball. I played baseball, football, basketball year round. But there are those elements out there that if you wanted to get in something in DPH, which is Deep Part of Hell, you could definitely get into it. Growing up in my house was a little bit different. That could be challenging. So I really didn't like being home all that much. But definitely out there in the streets, you saw things. You see the people drunk. You see drug addicts. You see your gang members. You see your drug dealers. That was out there open for everyone to see. But I was either going to school, going to play ball, or going to a friend's house or coming home.
Man. All right, and you had a big family.
Yeah.
You had a lot of siblings.
Yeah. I'm number 14 of 15 of a blended family. So most are half sisters and half brothers, but I do have one step brother, but still my brother. So yeah, with some of my older siblings, it was very challenging. I would just say that they were not the best role models that one would want for a child. And some of the wild west that would happen out in the streets sometimes would definitely filter home on their coattails. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would say that I would have to deal with that. I would have to deal with fallout of some of the things that my older siblings would get into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They'd get in some trouble out in the streets and kind of bring it home.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always came home.
Yeah. Alright, so you were dealing with stuff outside and inside the home.
Yeah.
A lot. So you could have got into anything out there. You were seeing all of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. You know, like I said, you see you knew with a spot where the ladies were selling their wares, their personal wares, if you know what I'm saying. You saw the D-boys, you saw your thugs, you saw, the goon squad, and pretty much that if you kept to yourself, they really didn't bother you. But once things started popping off, if you was around, it popped off with you there too. Yeah, I saw a lot that a child should not see, especially like I said at home, because some of my older siblings, they were not to be messed with. And put it this way, when you got murderers sleeping in the next room, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot to comprehend as a kid. A lot to comprehend.
Man, so that was like early mid '80s.
Yeah, that was all my childhood.
Hmm.
But especially, like I said, but once I became a teenager and I could roam and get on the bus and go visit places, I saw it less and less. But I always knew it was there waiting for me when I come home. So one story: 15 years old, I'm coming home from a basketball tournament. I'm playing for Grant High School in Sacramento. We got a pretty good sophomore team. Actually, it was a very good team. Our freshman year and sophomore year, I think we only lost 3 games. Yeah, we were really, really tough. Coming home to see my whole street is blocked off. And I'm wondering, what's happening? Well, what's going on? Why are all these cops? You see SWAT, you see cops everywhere. All the Berry Blues is beaming. Next thing you know, I see the SWAT team shooting tear gas into our window. So we lived in a 2-story house. It's actually a 4-bedroom, 2-story house. It's actually a nice, pretty nice house. My dad worked a lot. My mom was a homemaker, but my dad worked a lot. And they shooting up there, and I'm wondering what's going on. So next thing you know, they bring out my brother Gregory. He's grinning like the Cheshire Cat, looking like the devil. And it was a standoff for hours and hours. So, a family, things that popped off at the house.
Yeah.
And my mother was held hostage for a little while. And, they let her go. So it was just in-house fighting, squabbling, and it led to one of my siblings being led out by the SWAT team on the news. And so I had to deal with that, the fallout the next day of people who know where I live asking me, was that your house? I'm looking at them like, you know that was my house. You was just there yesterday. So, it's those kind of things. And that happened often.
Yeah. Man, that sounds intense.
It was intense.
Sheesh.
That's why I was an intense person. I was an intense kid.
Yeah. Shit. All right. So you're doing a lot of sports.
Yeah, sports was my savior.
Right on.
If it was not for sports and music, I would have not had a coping mechanism, and I would have been every bit of a thug and murderer that everybody else was. I would have went into the family businesses out there, which was, selling crack, selling drugs, being out on the street. I would have been just like that if I didn't have sports, if I didn't have music later on in life. And I picked that up when I was about 14 or 15. But that literally saved my life.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Man. So you said you were doing football?
Football, baseball, and basketball.
All 3 of those.
Year round.
Man.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
From the age of 10 to 18.
Dang. So all 3 years at Grant and
All 3 years at Grant
North Highlands.
and my 1 year at Highlands. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Damn. Anything you want to talk about that? Any cool stories or
You know what? I would say with the cool stories in sports, man, is I love the team camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I love sports because all the aggression and anger that I wanted to get out or may have wanted to get out on other people, I could get it out in sports.
For sure.
Yeah, and sports taught me so much. Things that I value to this day, things that I teach other kids as far as conflict resolution. Because you're going to fight as teammates, but can you get over it? Can you get over it to still come together to reach a common goal, which is winning? Working hard, getting up early, staying late, doing the extra when no one is seeing you. And all the things that would make you successful really in the music industry and different things like that. I attribute that all to sports.
Did you meet any people that you ended up doing music with in high school?
Yeah. Actually, my first group when I was 13 or 14 were all classmates. So it was 4 of us. We were called the Turntable Wizards. So, of course, rap had just come out in 1983, Rapper's Delight. And everybody was, hip to the hop, hip hop, you don't stop the rock. And so, I just loved the music. And I had always loved music. And that was another one of my coping mechanisms, listening to music. I love all kind of music. Rock, techno, R&B, country music, really, especially country music. Sidebar, man, my dad could yodel his butt off. My dad's an old Texas man.
Okay.
You see this little bitty old skinny, 135-pound black man, 5'7", yodeling. I thought it was just one of the most awesome things that I had ever heard in my whole entire life. And I wish I had recordings of my dad yodeling. Man, it was cool. So, but Met Damon Williams, Monty Hill, and Keith Brent, who's actual Reverend now. God rest their souls. Damon and Monty have moved on, but we formed a group, Turntable Wizards. We had 2 DJs and we had 2 rappers. I was one of the rappers, and Keith Brent was one of the rappers, and Monty and Damon were the DJs. That was my first introduction to music and me forming a group. So I think that was what, 1983? No, 82.
Freshman?
I think, yeah, going 8th and freshman year. Yeah, 1982, 1983. We formed the Turntable Wizards. And like I said, I didn't start off producing then. I did not start off producing. I was a rapper first. I wasn't the best rapper. I wasn't the best rapper, but and my first rap name was the Prince of Rock.
There it is.
I'm the Prince of Rock, and you won't come short, because I got the crowd support. That's the very first rap I ever wrote. Now, I can't remember anything after that, but I can definitely remember that.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was one of the first lines.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And then after that, the group broke up. We got to be about 14, 15. We would throw like house parties back then. You could throw house parties and stuff like that before things really, truly got dangerous once crack came in. And we would throw parties and we perform and, try to make a little local name for ourselves. And then one of the DJs, Monty, he wanted to leave. I guess we had some kind of fallout, and he wanted to leave. And so then it just left Damon. And then we discovered, I asked my dad to buy me a keyboard because I met this one guy who had a keyboard. His name was I want to say Jason Phillips. I know his last name is Phillips. Please forgive me if you see this video. I did not mean to forget your first name, but I know who you are. He had a keyboard. He had a Roland 60 Moog keyboard. So I asked my dad, hey, can you buy me a keyboard? I'm interested in music. My dad bought me a keyboard, and that's when I started producing. I started dabbling and producing and, playing over instrumentals and doing things like that. Yeah, so 13, 14 years old, man. That's when I got into it.
Dang.
Yeah.
So you don't remember any song titles from Turntable Wizards?
Yeah, the only one that I remember was, and I redid it years later, it was called This Jam Is Boomin'. This Jam Is Boomin', and I first got radio play on this high school radio station called KYDS in Sacramento with Sir Mix-a-Lot. No, Sir Mixula. Count Mixula. Yeah, Count Mixula. Mm-hmm. He played it. Yeah, the young kids played it on their thing, and I had at that time, I had 808, so this is some years later. Had an 808, and I kind of revamped the song and did This Jam Is Boomin'. Had that deep 808, boom, 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 boom. It was raw. It was raw.
What did that end up on, The Jam Is Booming, when you revamped it?
It was never released. I just did it at home. I had a 4-track recording station. Did it at home, and they played it on the radio, and that's when I started really building up and getting a name for myself as a producer and as a rapper, and start doing shows and stuff like that. So I know I kind of skipped some years because the Turntable Wizards, we really didn't do anything. Going back, we pretty much we kind of broke up because my friend Damon. One day we were practicing. He loved to do his tweed. I was never a smoker back then. I was never a smoker. Well, I've never smoked or anything like that or did drugs, but I wasn't a drinker or anything like that. I played ball, and he liked to smoke his weed and do things like that. And one day I was like, hey, Damon, man, if we really want to be serious about music, I think you need to stop drinking and smoking as much. That pissed him off. And Damon was a good dude. I mean, when I tell you, one of the nicest dudes you ever wanted to meet. Great guy, man. And we were about 16 years old, man. And he was like, well, we ain't a group no more. And I was like, wait a minute, can we talk about this? He's like, nah. And so he was a local DJ, and he was, trying to make his name around. And 5 years later, man, he was dead. I had to go tell his mother he was shot and killed. That's another story in itself. Just 5 years, man. Just 21-year-old kid, man.
Oh, man.
Yep, all that talent.
Yeah.
Gone.
Shitty.
Yeah, for stupidity.
Oh, man. Alright, so shoot. And okay, so you guys had that going on. And then you got the keyboard. Your dad got you the keyboard.
Got me the keyboard, yeah.
All
And
right.
then I started just playing music to anything that I can think of. So my influences back then, of course, were Prince, and I heard the rap beats, of course, disco music, because disco music, R&B, that was still prevalent. But Prince, Rick James, I love Queen, the music of Queen. My different rock people that we had that they would play on the popular music. It was called 102.5. I think it was like K-pop or something like that back then. And then, if you really want to know the first rapper that I ever heard that really, truly, truly influenced me, of course, by then you had Run DMC. As I'm getting older and I'm progressing after when I got my keyboard, you got Run DMC, you got other people coming, was Too Short. When he was with 75 Girls Record and he was putting out they didn't call them mixtapes back then. He was rapping over other people's instrumentals. When I heard Too Short, it was a whole new ball game for me. So I went from being Prince of Rock, I changed up my style of beats, and then everything for me started having a heavy bass line from me just practicing on the keyboard. Now, I'm not a true player. But I can get out what I want.
So you heard that Too Short.
Too Short.
Man, and you said this is it. So you started changing up your beat styles and started rapping more.
Correct.
Sure.
So, and by that time, I was solo. So I was no longer in the Turntable Wizards. It was just Prince of Rock, now BUMPIN T. And so now I'm just experimenting things on my own in the house. And back then, we had the boom boxes. So this is how I was recording. I would make a drum beat on one tape. Then I would play the one tape from the boom box, and then I would record the keyboards, playing it all live while the other tape was recording, and continue bouncing back and forth. And that's how I was doing my first demos. Yeah.
Man, layering it like that. That's
Layering it, playing it all live, all whatever 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then when I would do my rap, it was all one take.
Yeah. I was gonna say you can't mess up. You
Cannot mess up.
Start it all over, huh?
Cannot mess up. You mess up, you got to start it all over again.
Man.
But but there's a talent in that, because whether I knew it or not, I was honing my skills to where then when I got into studios, they were just calling me one take T. I go in there and I would know my stuff and I would bust it. And back then you could freestyling was cool. It was way before writing. So a lot of stuff back then you would just go off the dome, especially battle rapping. You know what I'm saying? You battle rapping back then. It wasn't like it is now. But back then, on the West Coast or in my neighborhood in Sacramento, man, you battle rap, man, you better come off the dome, because you talk about what a person is wearing, how they look. I didn't talk about people's mamas. That'll get you shot. That'll get you shot. But anything on their stuff, man, it was all fair game. And you better not have no ugly girl. I'm ripping you to shreds. But mainly back then, man, I was... Let's see, I would say I was a gangster rap producer, and I would rap what I saw in my household, but I was never a gangster. So I wouldn't consider myself a gangster rapper because I was never in it. I would just talk about things that were around me, or things that I saw, or things that I knew about. But it was very fun, man. But going from tape to tape to tape, laying and bouncing, man, it was a different process. And by the end, man, you get all this static, all this static at the end. But hey, we made it work.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
And that's how you were doing your first demo tapes.
That's how I was doing my first demo tapes.
And that was under the name BUMPIN T?
That was under the name BUMPIN T. So I never produced. The only thing that I produced, Prince of Rock, it never, like I said, no one ever heard that other than inside of my house. And that was that Prince of Rock and I Won't Come Short, because I got the crowd support. So after I started rapping, then I had a baby sister who was 5 years younger than me. So I'm 16, 17, 18, And so she comes, and her name was Chillin' S. And so we started a little group called the Chili Most 2. And so, but this is, like I said, a little bit later because, she had to be older and stuff like that. But we started practicing in the house. And so she started rapping with me. God rest her soul. Yeah, yeah. So my baby sister was rapping with me. Chillin' S. Yeah, yeah.
And how did you come up with the name Bumpin' T?
You know what? I think it was a friend. We were doing I was doing some messing around, and people knew that I was doing music. They was like, "Oh man, that's bumping." I'm like, "Man, I like that name." And everything that I got, it was so heavy and kick and heavy and bass line. I'm like, I just love that name, bumping. I just love the way I want my beat to bump. Everywhere it go, I want bump. And of course, Roger was back then, everything that he had. Oh, Roger was one of my influences, musical influences too. Everything he did had that bass line. I mean, come on, man. Man, I wanted my stuff to slap like that. Bumping. Every day. And whenever you heard my style, when you heard a specific sound or how it would come in, you'd be like, oh, that's Bumpin' T.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh, you know that? Always, man, oh, no, that's Bumpin' T. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So then you just took the first initial and threw that in there.
Yeah, and threw that in there, Bumpin' T.
Right.
And so friends had a lot of fun with it. You know what I'm saying? It could be Bumpin' Terrific, Bumpin' Turtle, Bumpin' Titty, Bumpin' Technician, so whatever they wanted to use it for, that's what it was. That's what the T for. It very rarely went for Tyrone.
Okay, yeah.
Very rarely went for Tyrone.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. How old were you? Do you remember when you changed that?
15, 16.
15, 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Prince of Rock was short-lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, It was short-lived.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But ever since the age of 15, Bumpin' T, and it still continues to this day. If I go back to the hood, they very rarely call me Tyrone. If they knew I do music, it's always bumping.
Right on.
Yeah.
What was that keyboard that your dad got you? What did you say what that was?
I did not say what that was, but the keyboard, I don't remember that keyboard, but the keyboard after that.
Okay.
That I got from Jason Phillips, and I know his name is not Jason, but I know your last name is Phillips. I know your last name is Phillips, and I'll find you on Facebook because he's one of my Facebook friends. It was a Roland Juno 60, with that Moog bass, boy. I love that keyboard.
Man, so that was your first.
My first true,
basically
first really true keyboard. The other one was made, like those Casio.
Right. Yeah.
But after that, when I got that Roland there, that was the real deal.
Right on.
That was a real deal. And then after that, I got a Roland 808.
Damn, okay.
Changed the game. That Roland 808, oh, man. That changed the game in music forever.
So when did you get that? Like 86, 87?
Ooh. Now,
when you graduated after?
Yeah, I got that after I graduated high school. So the first studio that I actually recorded in was a place called, why am I forgetting the name? Can't remember the name of the studio, but the person who did the studio, actually it was H Wood, who's H Wood now, but back then he was called Romeo. He was signed to Macola Records, and he was with Prince Julian, who's now Sub-Zero. Everybody changed their name. You have your kid name, and then you have your, more adult name.
Beat Boys.
Yeah, the Beat Boys. I'm a Beat Boy, man. Oh, my God. So, H Wood, we met at Highlands when I transferred over when I was 16 years old. And he was already doing music, and I would go to his house to record. And then when he really started getting serious in music, man, I'm telling you what, Teddy, man, I love Leo Bennett to this day. He gave me the best advice ever. Because like everybody back then, I just kept going back to the well, using his stuff, going to his stuff. Now, I was making music for him too, and I was making music for me and honing my skills. But one day he told me no. And I didn't even get mad. He was like, man, you got to get your own stuff. We all young. It wasn't mad. It was all love, man. You know how most people, they'll get pissed off. Man, where are you supposed to be, buddy? I didn't even do that, man. And to this day, I will always have my own stuff, as you see behind me right here. But that was the first recording studio, true recording studio that I went to record at, was with Leo Bennett and the Beat Boys. And then there was a studio in West Sacramento, and the engineer was the former bass player of a rock group called Steel Breeze, and they had a #1 hit, and it was in West Sacramento. So that was I can't remember the name of the studio. If anybody's out there that can remember the name of the studio, please let me know. But it was so cool. It was so fun. It was big. The sound was wonderful, man. It was nice.